Sisko shaves his head, Worf battles Skeletor in the Hollow Suite, and we see one of the best scenes in Star Trek history. Which one? Stay tuned to find out. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are reviewing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 1, Way of the Warrior, Part 1. Hang on to your hats, Grandma, because this is it. It is Season 4. Deep Space Nine is about to blow up. This episode is directed by James L. Conway, written by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Man, tell all your friends, this is no joke. Season 4 is here. How you doing, Cirroc?
Yeah, it does start off with a bang. I mean, this is it. I feel like the meat is, we got a lot of the appetizers and all the salads and all
some fried calamari. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we got the calamari, we got the house salad with the croutons, and now we're about to get into the main course. And I feel like they just set a hot plate of food down, and I'm ready to eat. So I'm glad that they got this episode started off with so many guest stars. For one, it was great to have the ensemble kind of working together. And this is kind of the beginning of what we'll see as the extended cast kind of all culminating and working together. So I enjoy the addition of the ensemble of working together.
That totally. This first episode really begins to expand the cast in a very deliberate way. And, obviously I think it's for the better. I think most people do. Before we get too far into it, everybody, please remember, if you'd like to support this show for as little as $1 or £1 or whatever, one denomination, patreon.com/the7th rule. You can find that in the description box below. Also, the freest way to support us is to just subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, give us a like, comment down below, whatever. But let's talk about this. First thing is, they said at the very beginning, there's a little text that says, in memory of Greg Duffy Long and Ronald W. Smith. I don't know who they are. I don't know if you do, but it must have been tough to lose two people over one summer.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Greg Duffy. I think he's one of the crew on our show. I'm not too familiar with him, and like his name doesn't ring a bell. But the Ronald Smith was our barber. He was the barber from the beginning of the show.
Right, you told us about him.
Yeah, he worked with Avery for years. He's an old school guy. He used to work with Duke Ellington years ago. So he's like from the old school Black Hollywood era. And so he was somebody that was a real parenthetical figure to me on the show when Avery wasn't around to be the guy who filled that void. My dad on the show, not just on the show, but kind of father figure outside the show and on the set.
Right.
When he wasn't there doing that, or even when he was there, Ron Smith was like my other protective uncle, kind of watching over me and schooling me on the ropes of, just being around the set and how to behave. So he passed away. They dedicated this episode graciously to him, and Avery did a lot to help Ron in his last days, paying for his hospital and things of that nature that nobody really ever gave him credit for. But I know about, and I'd like to just bring a little attention to, just because it shows that Avery is a man of a lot of character and did a lot to do whatever he could for Ron Smith, who he brought with him, by the way, from a man called Hawk. So Ron Smith worked with him on the Hawk series, and I think he worked with him on Spencer for Hire as well. So this is a person that Avery has, brought with him along the way in whatever projects he works on. So,
hey, Cirroc, jiggle your connection. There's like a little connection issue. I mean, we heard everything you said, but there was just a little. like where it's connected to the phone.
Yeah, I have a wireless device.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it might be that.
It's good now. Whatever you did is it's fine now. But yeah, you have mentioned Ron Smith before, and you have mentioned, and it's great. People need to know that Avery. I remember what you said last time. You said that Avery made sure that he was comfortable in his last days. I remember using the word comfortable, and that is really important. In the final days and the final weeks. So it's great that people know about this 25 years later. Do you think that is it any wonder that when Ron Smith was gone, that they're like, all right, fuck it, let's just shave his head? That's the first thing. They're just like, all right, forget it. He's like, nobody's touching my head anymore. Just Ron Smith. If it's not Ron Smith, then we're shaving it. That's it.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting observation there. I don't know what the two have as far as correlation, but yeah, this is the first time we get to see Sisko with a bald head and a goatee, and it really does kind of enhance his personality.
Right.
It's just kind of an untangible, but his performance in this episode is remarkably more powerful than usual. And I feel like his character kind of stands out and takes even more charge and control of situations. So it's a real defining element for who Sisko
Right.
is and becomes.
It's strange that his performance fully changed as soon as he shaved his head. I mean, the lines weren't significantly different, but his persona, his character suddenly became more grounded, suddenly held a little bit more weight, suddenly was a little bit more brooding. Like he was like, that's it. Captain now, shaved head, not screwing around. Like there's just more gravitas to him and his performance all of a sudden.
Yes, and the other thing that's also happening as well is the fact that we are now 4 seasons into the show, 3 seasons on the books. 75 or so episodes already done now, and the level of comfort is there between the cast. The roles are laid out. Everybody knows where they are and where they stand. And so I think across the board, I actually feel a real synergy between the characters.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I saw more in this episode from Dax. She seemed to have come into her own and looks more refined in her character as Dax. And then obviously with the addition of Worf here, that's going to throw this whole thing into a loop, and we have more to offer with that as well. So I think that this episode it just gave us a whole lot of things. Also, Captain Yates too. Cassidy is officially in the mix now, and it's no longer a developing thing. It's getting towards the serious level.
Right. Yeah. This is a very memorable episode for me. I feel like the first 3 seasons, I watched it once, all the way through 20 years ago or something. So it really felt like this was almost the first time watching this many times when we were going through the first seasons. A lot of times I didn't remember an episode or I didn't remember scenes. So it all felt like new Star Trek to me. And I actually kind of miss that, because the first 3 seasons aren't necessarily as good as the next 4. So in the past, when I would do like a rewatch, I just started this episode right here, season 4, episode 1, and I'd watch all the fun Klingon and Dominion stuff. But after watching these first 3 episodes, I actually miss it. Because it felt like watching new episodes of an old favorite because I didn't remember them. So I'm going to miss being able to watch old school Star Trek with new eyes, But this episode here has so many memorable moments. I mean, Worf arriving, the Klingons, he's heating up, right? That's a NBA Jam. Marv Albert says that's it. Like Klingons are heating up, and and then Cassidy Yates is becoming more of a presence. Like the as you mentioned, the expanding cast, Cassidy is now going to be recurring. Nog features a little bit more prominently as these seasons progress. Lita is slowly coming in. Worf is dropped like an atom bomb in there, and suddenly the 7 or 8 become 10 or 11 or 12.
Yeah, and to add to that, in this one we have Martok, which really was an excellent addition in this
right, and Galron.
episode. Yeah, and Galron, who comes a little bit later in the end. But we also get Garrick, more of Garrick. So we're starting to see just all the characters and how they relate to each other, the past history. I think one of the good things was Worf talking about being the son of Moog. I am Worf, son of Moog, challenging Martok and his son. And so because he had that history, it made sense for him to be in this story. So they brought Worf in at the right moment in which it would seamlessly blend in with what the storyline is, which is, the arrival of the Klingons and the beginning of this Dominion War that is about to pop up. So I think it's timely, and I enjoy that the chemistry that's there. Another thing I want to make note of is the way that Worf was introduced in the beginning. It's like O'Brien sees him first, which makes sense because they have that history together on Next Generation. So I think Worf's first scene is, with O'Brien saying, "Hey, what's up? Welcome back, buddy." And so I liked all of the elements that were played out in this episode.
Yeah, as Sisko says, he says, "Well, Curzon once told me that the best people to deal with Klingons are Klingons," and so that works very well. This episode has, like I said, so many of the most memorable moments. Some of the most memorable lines, like possibly my favorite Worf line, or the one that I think I might quote the most, is when the guy says he's drinking with the old guy, and he's like, "Have I ever told you of the time your father rescued my honor," or whatever it was? And he says, "Yes, many times." And he goes, it is a good story, Worf. But then he goes, my favorite line, he goes, "Yes, and you tell it well." That's such a Klingon. That's like Klingon problem. It's like, you can't let it go. Yes, and you tell the story well.
Right, but please spare me the story all over again.
Right.
I really like that, and you just highlighted something that I really enjoyed in this episode, which is the banter in between each alien race. So I like the Klingons talking to the other Klingons, and the way that they talk to each other. There's this abrasiveness, there's this insulting, constant insults. And it reminds me of how the Cardassians talk to each other, because Garrick was constantly insulting or getting insulted by Dukat. And it was a nice insight on how they deal with each other. It's
right,
like they cut right to the chase. There's none of this diplomacy that the Federation has and this political correctness. It's more like, "And why do you disrespect my son's honor?" And his father? What about his father?
That was, again, I really liked the dialogue in this episode. Might have the best dialogue ever. There's just so many good parts, because he says, "Why do you dishonor why do you take away my son's honor?" He says, "One cannot take away something that one does not have," right? And then he says, "Are you saying my son's without honor?" He says, "I'm saying that he's a coward and a liar." And then Martok says, "And what of his father? That remains to be seen." And you're like, "Yes, Worf, yes, stick it to him."
Stick it to him. And that's the kind of blunt conversation that Avery was talking, or Sisko was talking about, when he says only a Klingon could deal with a Klingon.
Right.
And that proved to be true. And that's the kind of conversation they need to have in order to have an understanding with each other. I like that.
Another great moment is when Bashir is talking with Garrick after Garrick was injured, and he's like, "Are you sure you don't want to press charges?" And Garrick was like, "Oh, no. the psychological damage I did to him is much worse than the 7 vertebrae they broke. And then Bashir says something like, "You're an idiot." I'm paraphrasing. And I wrote down the quote. Where is it? He says, "I'm serious. I mean, thanks to you, I'm nearly completely healed. But I got off several cutting remarks, which no doubt did serious damage to their egos."
Yeah, I really enjoyed that line because
Yeah.
he really was, relishing the fact that
Yeah.
he got in those digs. And
Yeah, he's like, "I
he's like,
lost
yeah,
the battle, but I won the war."
yeah, they bruised me up a little bit, but
Yeah,
but boy, their egos are going to be hurt for the rest of their lives. I
that's
like
great.
that, and there was a line preceding that I actually wrote down as well, and I wrote down awesome here because Garrick, in my opinion, was super awesome in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it. He says, "You'll be surprised the things you can learn when you're doing alterations."
Yeah, which was also foreshadowing to the final or penultimate scene, which I'll go ahead and say it since I already mentioned it. That to me is one of the best scenes in Star Trek history. One of the most memorable, that one and the root beer scene with Garrick and Quark. But Sisko says, because they can't tell the Cardassians, they can't warn the Cardassians, so what do? And he says, "Garrick, come, I need a measurement for a new suit right now." And Garrick kind of comes in, he's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yes, right now." And then it was just such a brilliant way to do it. When are they, what's the deal? 100 ships. When are they set to arrive at their target? And then Worf has like this moment where he's like, really doesn't want to say. He's like, but he says, "Okay, the fleet will arrive in Cardassia within the hour." And then Sisko says, "Can you check the waist? I think I may have lost weight." And the best line, Garrett goes, "Thank you, but I think I've got all the information I need." That's like
Yeah,
A plus screenwriting. There's nothing better than that, in my opinion.
absolutely. And I have to add a little bit of the way they set that up. There's the only way I see it. There's 2 options, and that was the thing that was setting this scene up. He said, "The only way I see it, there's only 2 options. Either we do this and this happens, or we do this and that happens." And Sisko very, very coyly and cleverly says, "Well, then we need a third option."
That's all there is to it. Yeah.
Right? Because
Okay.
we can't take those 2 options. Those are both bad options, right?
Right.
We're either way, we're stuck in a war.
Yeah.
So he's finding, let's find a third option, which is also indicative of Sisko's leadership skills. Again, weighing out what needs to be done and how to get it done in a way that won't upset the balance of power and destroy everything. And I thought that was a very clever way to come up with it by doing the fitting and leaking the information in that kind of a way. I thought that was just very clever, very good writing on the guy's part, Ira, and it just was a beautifully played episode because there were so many moving parts in this episode. I mean, obviously, the main central theme of this particular episode is Morn, right? So we all know that this episode is the A storyline is Morn having beef with the Klingons, pushing him around and bullying him.
Well, because, Morn's a troublemaker. And, he's had his dealings with the Klingons. He never shuts up about the Klingons. And
Never.
he's also a fan favorite. So, yeah, you're right. We're kind of dancing around it, but obviously this is a Morn episode. It's a good point.
It's clearly a Morn episode. He was featured in multiple scenes, and he was talked about extensively. What do you think about what Lieutenant Commander Worf likes to drink?
Man, this is why I cannot wait to get you onto Next Generation, because this was introduced in the Next Generation, and it was by Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg. She comes up to Worf, and he's sitting in 10 forward, and he's all fussy and grumbly. He's a powder. Worf is a powder. He's a closet powder. He's a warrior. He's a Klingon warrior, not a warrior.
He's a warrior.
Yeah. And she's like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Oh, grumble, grumble." And she's like, let me introduce you to something. I think you could use this drink. And he's like, oh, I don't like human drinks. And she's like, just try it. And she gets him this glass, and he takes a sip. And this is one of the other best lines ever by Worf. And he sips, and he goes, and he looks at her and he goes, a warrior's drink. After he takes it, and he's like, what is it? And she goes, it's prune juice. Yeah, I think you like. And then so from then on out, he just loves. And then because she's like, he's a little grumpy. Maybe he could use some prune juice. And so now, like forever, he loves prune juice. And that was great that they're bringing that over into Deep Space Nine, and he has that moment with Quark, which is great.
Yeah, I only drink prune juice if I have constipation issues. So maybe Worf is constipated.
I think that's what they were saying. That Klingon needs to cling less and just release.
Let it go.
We are about to take our break, but before we do want to give a shout out to the Sci-Fi Sisters, who last week did an awesome post-con party for us. It was an after party for Virtual Trek Con, and they've added 2 new sisters of the sci-fi variety. That's Yvette Blackmon and Jasmine Keeling, and we want to give them all a shout out and a pip pip hooray, as Cirroc said last week.
Yep, pip pip hooray. That's a good one. Yep.
But they're great. We love the Sci-Fi Sisters, and they just went from 3 to 5. It's party now. It's crazy. It's a huge thing. But we love them.
They're growing, and their influence is growing, and we support them, and we want to see them continue to grow and expand and do well. So congratulations to the new additions to the Sci-Fi Sisters.
Awesome. So Yvette's like, yeah, that's 2 weeks in a row, man. You guys leave me alone. This is too much. Calm down. Take a hold of yourself. But we love Yvette, so we're going to shout her out every week, probably. Get used to it, Yvette. Sorry. Anyway, we'll take a super quick break, and we'll be right back on The Seventh Rule.